Hey, hello YouTube, Trademark Kill here, and today we have another RWBY video theory for the Volume 5 that's coming up as you see this on Saturday the 7th, just in 1 week. Or if you go to see it live on October 12th, you have 2 less days, so you have 5 days before you see the Volume 5 release. Or if you're a first member, that's you see on Saturday, or if you're not a first member, you do have to wait till Sunday, so if you're not a first member, you have to wait till Sunday to see it on the site. Oh well, that's not a big deal. So, let's not delay anything. Let's go right into the video. Today's video is going to be kind of piggyback off another RWBY tuber. His name is EruptionFang, and he made a very interesting video about the seasons in RWBY. And basically the idea is that each kind of real world season, was winter, spring, summer, and fall, have a certain tone that reflects on the RWBY volumes from volume 1 to 4. Basically being, volume 1 is spring, new life, falls, 2, 3, and so on and so forth. I might probably fuck those up, but he explains it pretty well. If you want a more in-depth review or idea, if you haven't seen this theory around his video, will be in the link, the description link down below. You can click on that. Pause this video, come back after you see his theory, but mine's gonna piggyback heavily off of that. So what this theory is about is that in his video he describes it as the first 4 volumes are the first round of the first 4 seasons or first year basically. So volume 1 was 1 season, volume 4 was the last season, and now since we're going to head into volume 5, we're bringing on the new year basically of season, so we're starting back at 1. And his idea is that we might see similar tones to volume 1 as we're going to see in volume 5. There's some, with what we've seen in trailers, there's some debate about that, but there's actually an interesting idea that I'd like to talk about, which is the idea that we are starting kind of off from 1 because we're now at a new, city, we're at a new town that has a new school, but our core 4, whether that be Team Ranger or Team RWBY at this point, are not members of that school. So that school is going to be imperative. Getting inside that school and getting information from that school is going to be imperative to moving the season forward and to make our characters active. Now, here's the thing. Our characters, being from Beacon, are not going to get into Mistral or Haven very easily. See, Mistral knows that shit went down at Beacon. They also know that there's a possibility that Beacon is at odds with Atlas. So they are not going to be very happy that former or current Beacon students have suddenly showed up on their continent and gone right to the school to seek out the headmaster. Now, yes, they say at the end of Volume 4 that the Crow's going to take them to see the headmaster. That doesn't necessarily mean that the headmaster is going to give them information, especially if Leo Lionheart, who is probably going to be the cowardly lion in this menagerie that we have right now of Wizard of Oz characters being professors, or at least the grown-ups, we are going to have the cowardly lion, and if he's going to live up to that type, we're going to see a situation where he's going to be put into a corner that he's going to be too scared to get out of with the Salem gang. And when they are approached by Crow and Team Ranger, he's not going to want to cooperate in fear that Salem is going to try or will hurt him and kill him. So they're not going to give him information very easily or get information out of him very easily. That means that paired with the fact that they're from Beacon isn't good for our core 4. So what that means is that we're going to probably need a team who are Mistral or Haven students who can actually be walking around campus fairly easily, not draw a lot of suspicion, and are going to be able to relay information to Team RWBY or Team Ranger in this point, depending on how it works out. So what's going to happen is, if we go by EruptionFang's idea, one of the first things we established in RWBY in Volume 1 was teams. So, and we got the new team, or 2 new teams, or 3 if you count Team Cardinal. We got Team Juniper, Cardinal, and RWBY. That's 3 teams that we established in the first volume. Now, of course, Cardinal was not that important. Juniper was supposed to be less important, but eventually became a bigger part of the story because of the fan reaction to Team Juniper. And Team RWBY is, of course, the main protagonist, so they're going to be the spotlight. So my expansion on the theory that EruptionFang presented is this. We might get a team, or we're going to have a team who's going to be able to get information out of Haven to the Team RWBY or Team Ranger, depending on how they sort it out, who's going to be able to get copy information, see and tell them about suspicious activity. They also apparently have an outlet of Atlas, like an Atlas military base, basically near Mistral. So maybe that's also a base of operations that's going to cause Atlas to possibly overreact. But that could also be another reason why they need to, another group of people who are going to be involved in the information game, as it were. So, right now, we could possibly be seeing a team rise up to the occasion to help Team RWBY. Now, to start, I'm going to say what I very much want is I really want a team brand new. I'll get into the other things later. I want a brand new team. Something that could be the Cardinal or Juniper. And I would love if this team was a kind of an anti-hero kind of team. A team that's only going to help because they saw what was happened at Beacon and didn't want to and basically wants to survive. So they're going to help until it is inconvenient for them to help. I kind of want that anti-hero team who's out for themselves, who's going to work closely with the pure-hearted good guys in Ranger / Team RWBY. That would be an interesting dynamic and give a bit more to the story, but we also have some other options. Right now, we have established in RWBY that there are 2 other teams that we know of that come from Haven. One being Team Sun, who is currently left without Sun Wukong, that is, and that being, of course, Sun Wukong's team. And we're also aware that Team Auburn, the first team you see RWBY defeat in Volume 3, in the first episode, is also from Haven. And because Auburn is a relatively unknown team with just voice actors that are really accredited to it, we could see that be that team that rises up. Because if you think about it, Sun is going to be too busy, and depending on when the trailer that we saw, the Blake trailer, takes place, we might be too busy on Menagerie, so that might leave the rest of Team Sun alone at Mistral or at the Haven to not be able to do anything, which means the rest of Team Sun might chip in if Blake and Sun come back trying to track down White Fang. That might give them something to do, which means Auburn might be able to rise up, become a new prominent team in the world, and we can get some backstory on that and what they did during the fall of Beacon. Their personalities I wouldn't really know, but I would still love to have that kind of anti-hero or chaotic neutral type of team, if you were to say that are really out for themselves, is going to help Team RWBY just because they don't want to risk dying at their home, in their home academy, like almost happened at Beacon. That's a possibility. It could be interesting to see that happen and watch that develop. But because they kind of were a part of the Vital Festival, we just have the character designs when we don't have really anything to go by. But those are the 2 teams we have, Team Sun and Team Auburn, who could rise up and become a very important, or at least a semi-important team to help Team RWBY / Ranger kind of achieve that set of information from inside the school, while Sun and Team Sun are kind of broken apart right now. And there's also no telling what will happen if maybe, from what it says on the RWBY wiki, all of Team Sun except for Sun Wukong is from Mistral. Maybe they are... we don't have any real word if they're all... if they immigrated to Mistral like Sun did or not. So we don't know. Maybe the Team Sun is like... Maybe it's just Neptune, or maybe it's Neptune and Sage. But there's the chance that we don't know what their team status is right now. And for all we know, maybe one of them decided to leave the Huntsman Academy. So that way we bring in Blake and Sun as kind of a new team. Or new, to fill in the hole in the team. You bring Blake in to fill in the hole for Sun, Team Sun. But I don't know how well that would work. Team Sun is very confusing right now because you have technically the leader off helping Blake, who's then far away from the rest of his team, who are back home. And then you also have Team Auburn, who could, because they have been stated to be from Haven, they could be there to be a new team that we could learn more about and dictate or create more drama and more personality in the story. So, as I said, I would like it to be a new team. Auburn kind of qualifies for a new team. It will just depend on their personality. I mean, we don't have much, so it's pretty much close to exactly having a new team to work with. So, right now, we need... But if we go back to the theory... If we wanted to base it on something that, if we wanted to establish a new team here, Auburn's still a really good choice. But if you remember back to Volume 1, there's technically 3 teams announced. Cardinal, then it went Juniper, then RWBY. So maybe we still get that third team who's going to be very important to the story. Or maybe we're just left with discovering more about Team Auburn and still having Team Sun or the remnants of Team Sun somewhere helping out to do as a secondary scouting team, or maybe something like that. But what I firmly believe, to kind of bring it back to the perspective of the theory, is that we're going to find a new, very important or semi-important team that's going to help us be the scouts for what Team RWBY or Team Ranger would not be able to do, which is get into the grounds and halls of Haven and be able to scout. Auburn's a choice, a completely new team's a choice, but if we wanted to try and kind of connect it to the seasons metaphor, if this is a new round of seasons, as if we're starting back from Volume 1 and for Volume 5, if we think about the 3 teams that were announced, Cardinal, Juniper, and RWBY, maybe, and right now we only have Sun and Auburn, there could be a third team that comes up, does something important. Maybe that team, it turns out to be bad, and like Cardinal, so we have RWBY, Team Sun, Team Sun, Auburn, and the third team that ends up being, whether it's bad in some way, whether it's just assholes like Cardin and the Team Cardinal were, or whether it's a full-fledged villain team that are going to turn and help the bad guys, and we have the opposing kind of scouts, basically. Team Auburn and Sun are the scouts for Team RWBY, while this new third team are going to be the scouts for the bad guys. Maybe it's something like that we head into for Volume 5. It'd be interesting, but I do believe that there's a chance that we either get Auburn back to really delve into the history and the team dynamic of Auburn, or we get the third team, and maybe we get a new team and Auburn's just completely forgotten about. But with how well those characters were designed and how much detail was in those characters, I would not doubt if there was further intention built around Team Auburn. So that would be kind of a waste if the Team Auburn was scrapped, and I really don't want that. So really quick roundup, and we're going to end the video. If we go by that the seasons are coming back to square one, whether it's spring. I believe he started with in volume 1, so let's just say this is the new spring. There's a high chance that being one of the first things they established in volume 1 was teams. In volume 5, it could repeat, and the fact that there are going to be 14 episodes that was announced today, on Friday the 6th, that there are going to be 14 episodes in RWBY volume 5, which I'll probably talk about more in another video. There's going to be 5 teams, or sorry, wow, I completely butchered that. There's going to be 14 episodes, which could mean that they're going to take some time to establish a team, whether that's further establish Auburn or establish a new team or a mixture of both. They're buying themselves more time to do that with the 14 episode stretch that they have right now, which is really good. And I'm never going to complain about more RWBY. And it fits with the cycle. New spring comes in, and in RWBY volume 1 being the first spring, there were first thing you established in this was teams: Ruby, Juniper, and Cardinal. So if we are to follow that cycle again, and we are to believe the seasons cycle that is going on that EruptionFang mentioned, we could be seeing a repeat where we might not get 3 teams, we might only get 2, or we might get 1. But I would not doubt if there's a new team established that is going to help RWBY or hurt RWBY, or one for both, in getting inside the walls of Mistral, inside the walls of Haven, and helping them to collect information on what's happening so they can try to avoid another fall of Beacon. Thank you guys for watching. I hope I made all my points clear. Like, comment, subscribe, and as always, I'll see you guys in the next RWBY video. Hopefully these get much better, and with some more engagement from you guys, that would be greatly appreciated. If there's anything you guys want me to talk about, leave a comment down below. I'll try to fit it into the schedule, and I'll be also happy to chat with any of you guys in the comments who might have opposing viewpoints or similar viewpoints on what's happening. Anyway, Trey Merkel's out. Peace.